It is often said that space is the ultimate time machine, but it's a machine that only works in one direction, backwards. When we look at the stars, we aren't seeing reality. We are seeing a ghost. We are looking at a map of the universe that is gone. We think we live in the present, but the laws of physics trap us in a rigid projection of the past. This is the first geometry of deception, the illusion of now. Imagine the birth of the universe not as an explosion, but as an infinite three-dimensional grid. At the beginning of time, this grid is compressed so tightly that all its nodes are touching. This is intuitive, the tightness, the heat, the pressure. But the mistake 99% of people make is imagining this grid flying apart into a void. That is a lie. There is no void outside. The truth looks different. Imagine that the distance between the nodes of this grid simply starts to grow. The nodes aren't flying somewhere. They remain at their coordinates, but the space between them multiplies. Every cubic centimeter of vacuum suddenly turns into 2, then 4, then 8. The expansion isn't happening at the edges. It is happening everywhere, simultaneously. It is indisputable. The Big Bang was not an event that happened at a specific coordinate point that we are now moving away from. It happened right here, on the tip of your nose, in the Andromeda Galaxy, and at the edge of the visible cosmos. The universe isn't expanding into anything. It is expanding into itself, creating new space every fraction of a second. Personally, this gives me vertigo. We aren't flying through a void. We are standing on a fabric that is stretching beneath our feet faster than we can comprehend. All the information we receive about the world is obsolete. We are used to thinking that gravity is an instantaneous force, that the Earth is attracted to the Sun, which is right there, in the center of the system. This is an illusion. If the Sun disappeared right now, Earth would continue to orbit an empty spot for another 8 minutes and 20 seconds. We would bathe in the light of a star that no longer exists and obey the gravity of a ghost. On a cosmic scale, this lag becomes monstrous. We aren't looking into space, we are looking into an archaeological dig. Now simply does not exist in the universe. You might say, okay, light takes a long time to travel, but at least the geometry of space remains constant. Distant objects look small, close ones look big. And this is where common sense takes its most brutal beating. We are forced to admit a fact that seems absurd to any architect or artist. In our everyday Euclidean logic, if an object moves away, its angular size decreases. A car on the horizon turns into a dot. But in a universe described by the FLRW metric, this rule only works up to a certain limit, roughly until z is approximately 1.5. Beyond that, something happens that breaks the brain. The further a galaxy is past this threshold, the larger it appears. Imagine a galaxy drifting away from you into the deep void. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then, past that invisible threshold, it suddenly starts to grow. It continues to recede, yet its silhouette begins to expand. Why? Because we are seeing that galaxy as it was billions of years ago, when the universe itself was much more cramped. The light was emitted when the distance between us was tiny, and that light filled a huge angle of view. As the light traveled toward us, space itself stretched like rubber, stretching the image along with it. We live in a funhouse where the distorted mirrors are the very structure of the vacuum. This stretching didn't start today. It was written into the genetic code of the cosmos through the mechanism of inflation, exponential expansion in the first fractions of a second. But today, the process is driven by a different player, one far more sinister. In 1998, astrophysicists Perlmutter, Schmidt, and Rees discovered that the universe isn't just expanding, it's accelerating. There is a force, dark energy, pushing galaxies apart. And this leads us to the most claustrophobic discovery in modern cosmology. There is a hard limit, a wall. We know about the observable universe, a radius of about 46 billion light years. But there is a future event horizon, a limit beyond which we can never see and which we can never reach, even if we move at the speed of light. Calculations show this horizon sits at a distance of about 61 billion light years. Any galaxy that crosses this line drops out of our causality forever. Imagine you were in a city where the streetlights are going out. One by one, block by block, the light vanishes into darkness. You don't see it immediately because the light from the last lamps is still traveling toward you, but physically, they are already gone. With a certain degree of caution, we can assume that 98% of the galaxies we see in our telescopes today have already crossed this horizon. We see their light, but they are already unreachable. If we sent them a signal right now, it would chase them forever through expanding space, but never reach its target. Space between us is being created faster than light can cross it. We aren't just lonely, we are causally cut off from the majority of reality. But if space is stretching, dragging matter apart, a frightening question arises. What happens to the order of things inside? If the universe is a mechanism that is constantly enlarging, what happens to its mainspring? We are approaching a moment when the very concept of time will lose all meaning, turning eternity into the most terrifying prison imaginable. Imagine dropping a porcelain cup onto a concrete floor. Shards fly everywhere. Now, rewind the tape. The shards gather themselves back into a whole cup and leap into your hand. You laugh because it looks absurd. But ask yourself, why? There is nothing in Newton's or Einstein's laws that forbids this process. Atoms can move in reverse. The equations of physics are symmetric in time. But cups don't reassemble. People don't get younger. Smoke doesn't return into the cigarette. Here, we face the brutal truth, first realized by Arthur Eddington. Time is not a road we walk along. Time is a gradient of disorder. The second law of thermodynamics states, entropy, the measure of chaos, in a closed system always increases. What we call the past is simply a state of lower entropy. The future is a state of higher entropy. To me, this discovery sounds like a death sentence. We perceive the flow of time only because the universe is decaying. Every beat of your heart is a step from order to chaos. Life is surfing on a wave of decay, but every wave eventually hits the shore. Undeniably, if the universe continues to expand, and thanks to dark energy, this is inevitable, we will reach a state of thermodynamic equilibrium. This is the heat-death scenario. Stars will burn through all their fuel. New stars will stop being born because gas clouds will be dragged too far apart by expansion. Galaxies will become graveyards of black holes. But even black holes aren't eternal. They will evaporate via Hawking radiation. What remains? Photons with monstrously long wavelengths, stretched beyond recognition, and subatomic particles drifting in absolute void, billions of light years apart. At this moment, something terrifying happens. When all energy is distributed evenly, heat transfer is impossible. Work is impossible. Events are impossible. In a world of maximum entropy, the very distinction between past and future vanishes. The arrow of time breaks. Time effectively ceases to exist. We are entering the era of de Sitter space. This is a model of a universe that is absolutely empty, yet contains a positive cosmological constant, dark energy. A paradox that makes your blood run cold. The void is not passive. The density of dark energy does not drop as it expands. Space doubles, triples, grows exponentially. But every new cubic meter of vacuum contains the same repulsive energy. This creates a cold hell. Imagine an infinite expansion where there are no observers. No matter, only geometry inflating into nowhere. Physicists call this state vacuum dominance. It is perfect silence, the final death of reality. It would seem this is the end. Curtain, credits, fade to black. But the laws of quantum mechanics hate zeros. They forbid absolute emptiness. While you stare at this black screen of eternity, statistics come into play. If you have infinite time, the word impossible loses its meaning. Imagine a monkey banging on the keys of a typewriter. Give it an hour, it will type nonsense. Give it a year, maybe you get a word. Give it a Google years, and it will accidentally type Shakespeare's Hamlet without a single error. The de Sitter universe is that monkey, and quantum vacuum fluctuations are the keystrokes. In the infinite cold of dead space, strange flashes begin to occur. Virtual particles appear and disappear. Usually, they annihilate instantly. But if you wait long enough, an eternity, could a random fluctuation assemble not just an atom, but a whole new universe? The mathematical answer is shocking. It's not just that it can happen, it must happen. And this brings us to a concept that made Friedrich Nietzsche lose his mind and makes modern physicists lose their sleep. Let's look at this dead void of de Sitter space under a microscope. If you think a vacuum is nothing, you are mistaken. According to Heisenberg, absolute zero energy is impossible, as it would violate the uncertainty principle. We would know both the position and momentum of the field. Therefore, the vacuum is a boiling ocean. Pairs of virtual particles are constantly being born and dying within it. They borrow energy from the bank of the universe and instantly return it, annihilating. This happens everywhere and always. Right now, in the empty space inside your head, billions of particles are flashing in and out of existence. Usually these flashes are microscopic, but quantum mechanics is a game of probabilities. There is a non-zero chance that a fluctuation will be slightly larger, an even smaller chance it creates an atom, and even smaller, a molecule. The probability is negligible, but remember, we have infinite time. In de Sitter space, the clock ticks forever, and in infinity, any event with a probability other than zero happens not just once, but an infinite number of times. In 1882, Friedrich Nietzsche proposed a thought experiment he called the heaviest burden. Imagine a demon creeping up to you and saying, "This life as you now live it, and have lived it, you will have to live once more, and innumerable times more, and there will be nothing new in it." For Nietzsche, this was an ethical test. Do you love life enough to desire its eternal repetition? But modern physics turns this metaphor into a dry mathematical theorem. Henri Poincaré proved any system enclosed in a finite volume or having a finite number of states and possessing finite energy must over infinite time return to its initial state. Imagine a deck of cards. If you shuffle it forever, sooner or later, the combination of cards will repeat. The universe is a deck of cards made of elementary particles. Yes, the deck is huge, but it is not infinite. The number of quantum states in our Hubble volume is limited, roughly 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 115. This means heat death is not the finale. It is simply the shuffling phase. If you wait long enough, a random quantum fluctuation or quantum tunneling is bound to recreate the Big Bang, not one similar to ours, but one exactly the same. Physicists have even calculated how long this will take. The number is so large that there aren't enough atoms in the universe to write it down if you wrote one digit per atom. It is roughly 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 56 years. After this unimaginable abyss of time, entropy will accidentally decrease, a fluctuation, and the universe will reboot. Stars will ignite, Earth will form, and you will be born again. You will watch this video remembering nothing of the trillions of times you have seen it before, and you will do this forever. We are forced to admit, linear time is an illusion of our short perception. On a macro scale, time is a closed circle. We are trapped in a loop of existence from which there is no escape, because matter has nowhere else to go but to repeat itself. Does that sound like a strange comfort? Immortality through copying? Don't rejoice just yet. There is a dark side to this logic that turns cosmology into a horror movie. Nature is lazy. entropy loves to grow, and fluctuations love to be minimal. The probability of a vacuum accidentally assembling an entire huge universe with billions of galaxies is incredibly low. This requires a gigantic reduction in entropy. It is much more probable that a fluctuation will assemble something smaller. Why assemble an entire solar system so that you can exist? It is enough to assemble one Earth. That is 10 to the power of something times more probable. Why assemble Earth? It is enough to assemble one room. But why assemble a room and a body? Here, logic brings us to the edge of a cliff. To give you the sensation that you are watching YouTube, the universe doesn't need to create YouTube, the internet, Google servers, or a monitor screen. It only needs to create your brain, currently in the state of perceiving this moment. Statistics are ruthless. Creating 1.5 kilograms of grey matter with false memories of the past written into its neurons is trillions of times easier than creating 93 billion light-years of real space. And if we believe the formulas of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics, we must ask ourselves a question that could shatter one's sanity. Why are you so sure that the hands holding your phone are real? The answer to this leads us to the Boltzmann brain paradox, a concept that questions not just physics, but the very reality of yourself. Look around. The walls of your room, the light of the screen, the sensation of your body's weight. Are you sure there is a street behind that wall? Are you sure you had a morning yesterday? Physics says, don't be so naive. According to the standard cosmological model, lambda CDM, if we simply let entropy do its job in eternal de Sitter space, the emergence of complex structure is a matter of luck. To create a normal human, the universe first had to create the Big Bang, then galaxies, then stars, then planets, then 4 billion years of evolution. This is a monstrously long and energy-expensive chain of events. It is an expensive history from the perspective of entropy. It is much cheaper to assemble a finished structure by chance. Think of it as a lottery. Option A, win the jackpot every day for 14 billion years. That is evolution. And option B, win the jackpot once. That is the random appearance of a brain. The math is unyielding. The number of particles needed to create a single brain is negligible compared to the particles needed for a star. The ratio of probabilities is terrifying. The chance of a real universe being born is roughly e to the power of -10 to the power of 123. The chance of a lonely Boltzmann brain being born is e to the power of -10 to the power of 60. The difference in the exponents means that for every one real human born of evolution, there are trillions upon trillions of phantom observers in the infinite cosmos. This means that statistically, you are most likely not a biological being on planet Earth. Right now, you are a clump of matter that randomly condensed in deep space out of thermal noise. In this very moment, your neurons arrange themselves into a configuration that holds a false memory of your entire life. You think you've been watching this video from the start, but in reality, you appeared a second ago and will vanish in a second when the fluctuation decays back into the vacuum. Your life is the dying hallucination of the void. Personally, this makes my palms sweat. It is solipsism, proven by the equations of thermodynamics. But wait, before we go insane, let's use the most powerful weapon against this nightmare, logic. Physicist Carroll calls this cognitive instability. The argument goes like this. We believe we are Boltzmann brains because our theories of physics, quantum mechanics plus thermodynamics, tell us so. But if we are Boltzmann brains, then our memories and knowledge are false. We never conducted experiments. We never saw instrument readings. All our knowledge of physics is just a random set of neural connections born from chaos. Therefore, if we are Boltzmann brains, the physics on which this conclusion is based is likely wrong. It is logical suicide. A theory that predicts observers or random fluctuations undermines trust in itself. This means one of two things. Either we fundamentally misunderstand something about the vacuum and entropy, or the universe is structured much more complexly than just a box of gas. Here, the great Freeman Dyson takes the stage. In 1979, he dared to declare that physicists make a mistake by viewing the universe as a dead mechanism. They forget one variable: us, life, intelligence. Dyson argued, physics is incomplete without biology. We are used to thinking that life is mold on the surface of a rock, an accidental passenger. But what if intelligence is the universe's immune system? We are the only objects in the universe capable of locally decreasing entropy. We take chaos and turn it into cities, books, symphonies, and scientific theories. We stand facing an icy infinity. On one side, heat death and decay. On the other, eternal recurrence and the nightmare of endless repetition. On the third, the paranoid delusion of the Boltzmann brain. It seems there is no exit. Reality is either dead or insane. But this is where your red pill lies. The fact that you exist not as a fleeting flash in the vacuum, but as the result of 13.8 billion years of unbroken cause and effect, makes you the most incredible anomaly in the history of being. We are the universe's way of experiencing itself. Without us, de Sitter space would simply be a mathematical abstraction. Without an observer, equations have no meaning. Perhaps our goal is not just to survive the expansion of space. Perhaps our task is to understand these laws deeply enough to change them. If we are a statistical error, then we are the most beautiful one. Next time you look at the night sky, don't think about how small Earth is. Think about the fact that this gigantic, expanding cold colossus created you just so you could look at it. And as long as your neurons hold that image, the universe exists. Do not let it fade out inside your head. Think.